What I like best about the Terry and Jesse show is that it revives my hope in men to be godly men.
It's a really good show because it's relatable to family life, daily life. It's encouraging. It's like cheerleading also for Catholics. But number one, the reason I like it because you guys aren't afraid to speak the truth.
You are both the most compassionate hosts I've ever heard. And as a Jewish convert, I am a much better informed Catholic. Thank you, Terry and Jesse.
I just think it's the best thing that we have here in LA. It's awesome. I'm hooked.
Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. We invite you to this holy hour of power. We're two Catholics with PhDs in common sense. This is Common Sense Catholicism. Our program is not right versus left. It's right versus wrong. And this is actually Catholicism for the blue-collar man. We want to encourage you, we want to enlighten you, and we want to offer you solutions in this world that we live in today. Today's topics are very beautiful topics. They're the Eucharist and the Blessed Mother. And there's an article that I have in my hands from the Catholic Stand that says Satan's twin terror, Mary and the Eucharist. A wonderful article pointing out how the devil doesn't want you to have any devotion to the Eucharist or to the Blessed Mother. The other topic I'm going to bring up is another article that why one bishop is putting the tabernacles back into the center of the churches. I see this happening wherever I go now when I travel around the country. It appears that more bishops are saying, let's just put Jesus back in the center of the church. What happened is, we thought it was a good idea to put Jesus in a little side hall, but it seemed like devotion to the Eucharist went down with that, and I saw it. So this bishop, Robert Marino, he arrived in the Diocese of Madison, Wisconsin in 2003, and he began quietly encouraging priests to promote more reverence towards the Blessed Sacrament. What a great idea. And more adoration, more reverence at Mass, and moving the tabernacles back to the center of the church. You can agree or disagree, but I think it's a good move from the bishop. I've seen more bishops doing that. And, we've seen a de-Eucharization going on for the last 45, 50 years. At least in my life, I've seen it. And now I see more people coming to adoration chapels. It's wonderful what I'm seeing. We're also going to be talking about a new movie, and the movie's called Full of Grace. It just came out. It's the life of the Blessed Mother, and it's doing quite well. I'm going to interview Andrew Hyatt. He's a writer and director. Halfway through the show, we're going to be talking about why they produced this movie and what the objective is. Because we're here in Los Angeles, I want to remind everybody we have monthly meetings starting next month. The second Saturday of each month, we have a meeting, a radio meeting, and this particular one that's coming up is February 13th at the Sacred Heart Chapel at 381 West Center Street in Covina. Father John Struso, who's the priest that's going to be at our Spiritual Warfare Conference next week, he's agreed to come once a month to offer Holy Mass, pray the Rosary with us, Divine Mercy, and it'll be your spiritual fitness here. I'll be here also to talk about the Catholic faith and inspire you to help you fall in love deeper with Jesus and Mary and his bride, the Church. If you'd like to come to our meetings, it starts at 10:15. We'll be happy to have you come. You can call 877-526-215, and if you have questions on where the church is, go online to catholicrc.org, and that's where our website is. It'll give you that information. Just so you guys know, the Spiritual Warfare Conference is sold out here at the Sacred Heart Chapel. So next week at this time, we'll be starting it in the afternoon. If you do want copies of the talks, because you can't come because we're filled with a capacity, we have about 400 people in the chapel coming. You can get recordings by calling 877-526-215 and on CD or MP3, and that's what I would recommend that you do. I want to share with you something that just touched my heart this week. And I had a woman call in and tell me about her son. When he was 5 years old, he started praying the rosary, and it affected mom and dad and the entire family to come back to the faith. And I think it's so beautiful. I'm just going to give you a little teaser of now he's 9 years old and how much he loves the Blessed Mother. If you want to you listen to this and you want the whole interview with the young boy, the mom, and the dad. I'm going to give 2 copies away. You just call 877-526-2151. Put your seatbelts on, because when you hear this, it's going to blow you away on the little boy's love for Mary that just ran right into the home for mom and dad. So, Mr. Engineer, play that clip.
So it all started when my mom, she had me in St. Louis the King, but she moved me to St. Catherine's. So it was my first time being there in first grade. Mm-hmm. And then as I was in first grade, my teacher, Miss Garcia, she'd always she'd always make time. And every morning after breakfast, we'd go sit on the carpet. Everyone she'd have a bunch of rosaries. She'd hand one out to each one of us. Mm-hmm. We sit nicely at the carpet and we'd just pray the rosary there.
How old were you at that time, Augustine? How old were you?
Right now I'm 9.
No. How old were you when that was? That in first grade when you were probably 6 or 5?
I don't know. I have to count back.
That's okay.
Here.
That's all right. So tell us what happened. So she taught you how to pray the rosary?
Yeah, and then when I came home, I told my mom all about this, and then and then she said it's cool, so that we started praying it with our family, with her, and then also then later, right now, when I was in second grade, then I started praying the rosary, and also I noticed that prayer is just like a little seed that when you start having your first prayer, it's planting the seed of prayer, and it grows as you pray more. So that's when I realized when you pray to Mary, that it's like saying you love your mother, because if you don't pray to her, it's like you're just not talking to her at all. It's like you're not even saying the word to your mother, not saying I love you or anything, because she gave us her son, the rosary, the scapular, all her protection, and all these devotions for us to pray. She told us to fast and to make sacrifices for the souls in purgatory.
Wow. He goes on and talking about the Blessed Mother. I wrote a book called How to Share Your Faith with Anyone. This is the first time I saw a 5-year-old evangelizing mom and dad on the rosary. But I think it's inspirational. And I would say this, everyone. If you want to get a copy of the rest of his story, the mom's story, and dad's story, I interviewed him this week. I'll give you 2 copies. You want to share this with your friends and family. And I'll tell you why. Because I want you to encourage a rosary rally, a rosary for peace. The world needs the rosary right now, and the best way to do it is to encourage families to step up to the plate and pray that rosary. That's why I think this little interview with mom and dad and the little boy, Augustine, can inspire you to start praying the rosary every day. Get those interviews by calling 877-526-2151. That's 877-526-2151. Also, I just want to remind you of another event that's taking place, and that's the Biblical Studies Conference. I always like to plug Dr. Scott Hahn, Dr. Barber, and Dr. Petrie. We had done it for many, many years, and we turned it over to John Paul II, the great university, to handle that conference every year. It's the end of the month. Go to John Paul II, the great website. You'll get information on how you can register for that conference on the Biblical Studies Conference. Also, don't forget, everybody, you're here in Los Angeles. Cardinal Burke is coming to Pasadena. What? Or Glendale area. He's going to be at the Renaissance Banquet Hall on January 15th. It's a fundraiser, all right, for Love and Life Family Benefit Dinner. It's for the Shield of Roses, which promotes praying at abortion clinics. It's a beautiful group I've been involved with for 30 years. If you want to come, there's still room. Call 818-242-3912 or go online to Shield of Roses at shieldofroses.com. But I would just call them and say if you can get a ticket. 818-242-3912. 3912. And I like to promote Catholic events. I mean, we've got the Walk for Life that's coming up in San Francisco. We've got so many good events going on that the radio could be that means of communicating it to you. And so, yeah, Terry's got a big mouth. He loves to share the good news with people. Just so you know, my brother Jesse's on a plane going to another state to preach the gospel this weekend. So he's not here with me. But I have my guardian angel with me. And as I've said to you folks listening, put your guardian angel to work. The unemployment rate's too high. So I always ask my guardian angel to be with me all through the day, and I would encourage you to do the same. Remember, at the halfway mark of the show, I'm going to be interviewing a gentleman, Mr. Hyatt, who's the director of Full of Grace, the movie that just came out. And I would encourage everyone to see that movie because we're talking about Our Lady today. We're talking about the Eucharist and how Satan is in horror over Mary in the Eucharist. And that's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, because the Second Vatican Council says the Eucharist is the source and summit of the Christian life. And we talked a little bit about the bishop in Madison, who's putting the Blessed Sacrament back in the center of churches. I think that's a great idea to bring more reverence to the Eucharist. If you'd like to get those CDs about the family who were a 5-year-old boy, evangelized them to pray the family rosary to inspire more rosaries in this world, call us at 877-526-215, and I'll give 2 copies away. We need peace in the world. This is the peace plan from Fatima. 877-526-2151. When we come back, we'll talk more about this. Jesse and I would like to thank you very much. And I also go online to CatholicRC.org. Thanks for your donations. Let's have it happen again and again and again. God love you. Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. I mentioned Jesse's out of town today, traveling. I just wanted to reiterate what we're talking about is the Blessed Mother and the Eucharist, and we have an article called Satan's Twin Terror, Mary and the Eucharist. But before I mention more about the topic here, I want to remind everybody the Terry and Jesse Show, we're going to be on a 7-day round-trip California coastal cruise, April 16th to the 23rd. We're going to go to San Francisco, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Ensenada, Mexico. For 7 days, we'll have like a hotel on the ship, but we're going to be having Mass, Rosary. Jesse and myself will be giving talks on the faith. Our wives will be there. Basically, we want to spend 7 days with you on the sea talking about how we can be holier and how we can get closer to Jesus Christ and his bride. If you'd like to go on that cruise, it's not a whole lot of money compared to some other cruises I've seen. You contact Carmen at 805-526-6565 or online, Carmen at veritascruise.com. I want to also mention one more thing. I think I'm at 4 parishes this week. I was at St. John the Baptist Church last night in Costa Mesa. I got to tell you, those men are awesome. Had a great talk out there on evangelization. Tonight I'm going to be at the mission in the San Gabriel Mission tonight at 7 to talk on evangelization. If you'd like me to come to your parish, I only went to 4 parishes this week. I'm busy, but I'd love to come to your parish to fire the troops up about Jesus Christ and his bride, the church. Just call 877-526-2151, and I would be delighted to come to your parish or your event, the ACCW, women's groups, all kinds of Marian groups call me, men's conferences. I'm available. Call 877-526-2151 to come to your parish. I'd love to promote the faith there. I always bring all my goodies, and I give things away at the conferences. So I'd love to have you do that. All right. My question, I want to mention, we're going to be interviewing in about 15 minutes the man who's put the movie together on the Blessed Mother, and we're going to talk about why they put this movie together and what's the point of it in about 15. But I'd like to ask you, our listener, you heard earlier, if you heard the beginning of the show, of a little 5-year-old boy who started praying the rosary at his Catholic school, and he brought the rosary back to his mom and dad, and now they're on fire for the faith. I'll just give you a little teaser. Both of them were not practicing the faith. It was their son, through Our Lady, that brought them back to the church, And I will tell you, the interview is outstanding. I did it all this week. You'll want to hear it. And if you want to get copies of that interview on CD, because I want you to take it and share it with friends so that they'll start praying the family rosary. Father Peyton said the family that prays together stays together. Call 877-526-2151 to get that interview of Mom, Dad, and a little boy who ignited them to pray the family rosary. I'm going to tell the world about this little boy because I just think it's so beautiful that he touched his mom and dad with the faith, and we need more of that. If you have a question or a comment about the Blessed Mother, or maybe you have a story about how she's intervened in your life, call me, 888-526-2151. That's 888-526-2151. I want to mention something also about the Catholic Stands article about Satan's twin terror, Mary and the Eucharist. See, Mary and the Eucharist in the New Testament is directly tied into the Ark of the Covenant and the Word of God, the Ten Commandments in the Old Testament. You know, so when we talk about Mary, she was the first tabernacle for Jesus. So it's important that she was the one there when we say the Word became flesh. It was the Blessed Mother who gave us Jesus. And we just celebrated Christmas not too long ago, and I think that's an appropriate time. Also, think of this about the Mass, everybody. When we're present at Mass, we are present at that one eternal sacrifice. And so many people tell me, well, I don't get anything out of the Mass. Hey, let me ask you a question. If you didn't understand football and I took you to a football game, wouldn't you find it boring? Of course. I think we have to have a lifetime occupation studying the Mass, the source and summit of the Christian life. Think about it this way. You go there every Sunday, maybe even every day, there's always something to learn in the Mass. And I would encourage you, you have that CD, How to Get the Most Out of the Mass. We love giving that away. Remember, no Mary, no Jesus. I'm saying N-O Mary, N-O Jesus. K-N-O Mary, K-N-O-W Jesus. See, if you know Mary, you're going to know Jesus. That's what we call Mariology. Mariology is Christ-centered. And that's why we are promoting the Rosary for this time. Our Lady of Fatima appeared many times in the last couple of centuries to warn us about getting right with her Son. As you know, one of the most famous approved apparitions was in Fatima almost 100 years ago. In 1917, she warned us of the coming of communism, the godless revolution that the world would be swept into. And I just think it's very interesting now, here we are, 100 years later, and we see secular humanism stepping into our culture. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to get out those rosaries right now. And, you know, let's make a rosary rally of peace. I mentioned to you yesterday the Reverend Graham. He says it's open season on Christians and sin is openly celebrated by the highest office in our land. Well, let's don't sit on our hands. Let's act like men and women and let's pray. Let's get those rosaries out. I think you heard the little 5-year-old boy say that he quoted Padre Pio as a weapon, using the rosary, spiritual weapon. It's true. America is in trouble. I think everybody would agree. And if you want to help our country, get out those rosary beads. Also, Pope Francis on December 8th started the Year of Mercy. And I told everybody I'm going to help whatever I can to get people to see the mercy of God. And one of the things I'm going to encourage people is to get Father Donald Calloway's DVD on Jesus, I Trust in Thee. Wonderful DVD that I think will touch people, or his CD on the same topic. You can get these things all the way down to $1 a CD if you get a bunch of them and start handing them out for the Divine Mercy season. I encourage you to call the 877-526-2151 to get bulk pricing on the DVDs because, like I said, it goes down to $1 a copy. We just want to really flood people with the Christian message of mercy. I mentioned to you, and maybe you hadn't heard this, but once an old priest made an observation in my hearing that mercy isn't only the basic to Christianity, it's smart. He pointed out that if I refuse to forgive someone for a perceived wrong against me and spend my days thinking about how bad that person seems to be, it doesn't hurt the perceived offender. It only hurts me. The other person goes on blissfully, continuing his or her life while I eat myself up inside. Can you relate to that, everybody? I sure can. On the other hand, if I forgive perceived wrongs against me, it gives me peace. It also gives me power before the awesome tribunal of Christ. So when I die, I stand before God because Jesus revealed us on how it works. If you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others, neither will the Father forgive your trespasses. It's right out of the Bible, Matthew 6, verse 14 and 15. If one person makes peace with someone from this little radio broadcast, it was all worth it. And maybe you're that person. In a certain country, listen to this, everybody. In a certain country, once there was a Catholic man who was angry at his local priest because he thought the priest was involved in bad things. Seeing this man loathing for the priest, the friend of mine told the man that he must hate any sin but love all sinners, and that we must all learn to love one another if we hope to live together forever in heaven later. The man replied, I would rather rot in hell than to have to spend eternity in heaven with that priest. The man was in a fit of anger, so, of course, it's possible that he didn't really reflect upon the true consequences of what he was saying. But anyone who's calmly thinking straight can see this extreme example, the dangers of not forgiving. Forgiving others benefits us. Not forgiving others hurts us in time, and I might add, in eternity, where it really hurts us. Folks, if you'd like to get Father Calloway's DVD, I want you to share the gift of mercy in the coming year of divine mercy. Father Calloway, for those who don't know him, was a wine, women, and song. He reminded me of St. Augustine. He had a massive conversion to the Catholic faith, and now he's director of evangelization and for vocations. And his DVD or CD has got, you can get a couple copies, just pay the shipping, or you get bulk pricing. Call the number 877-526-2151 to get all kinds of these copies. I think you can get the DVDs as low as $1.50 per DVD. What? Is that true? Yes, it says right here in our email. We want thousands of these CDs and DVDs to get into people's hands because we want divine mercy to be out there for people. Many people won't even come into a church, but you can hand out these CDs to them at work or at the ballpark, and it can touch a soul. I'm convinced that, and this is what I've found through evangelization, that many people come back because someone gave them a book, a pamphlet, a CD that encouraged them to come back to the church. And I'm asking you, our listener, to be part of the solution in the Divine Mercy message. Yes, pray your chaplet, but I want to ask you to do another thing. Give out CDs on Divine Mercy. I guarantee you're going to have a surprise when you get to heaven and you run into people that say, hey, thanks for sending me that CD. It really helped me. Yes, that happens. I guarantee it. Call 877-526-215 and get your CDs. Get that interview with the little boy, the mom, and the dad who talked about the rosary that was so powerful. This is how we can reach people through good Catholic CDs and pamphlets and booklets. I'm counting on you, and I know our Lord is too. Be part of the solution. Call 877-526-2151. When we come back, we're going to talk about that movie, Full of Grace. Don't turn that dial. We're going to be right back. Jesse and I would like to thank you, rc.org. Thanks for your donations. Let's have it happen again and again and again. God love you. Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. We've been talking about the Blessed Mother, and I made a promise that we would be talking to the director of a movie called Full of Grace, Andrew Hyatt, and we're going to ask him about his own walk with the Lord and how he got involved with Hollywood. Andrew, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Hi, Terry. Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be on here.
Well, I'm honored to have you because any good that we do comes from God, and we thank him for it, brother. And I'm impressed with your movie. I've seen the clips. Tell us your story, though, how you got involved with Hollywood, because I think it would be good to know a little bit about you, Andrew.
Absolutely. So I grew up Catholic, but I like to tell people I grew up with as a Catholic with a little KC, lowercase c. I went to Catholic school. I went to church on Sundays, but Christ was never the center of my family's home, and that made a big difference. So when I got to college, I went to film school at Loyola Marymount University, and then I went right into Hollywood. And my faith didn't stand up against the temptation of the world. I didn't have this sort of. I never had the encounter, this encounter with Christ that changes everything. It was a very intellectual knowledge of my faith. And so I wanted everything that Hollywood had to offer. I was a very worldly, selfish, ambitious person. I wanted the whole package. I wanted to win Oscars, date Taylor Swift, the whole thing.
I love it.
But God had other plans, thankfully. And I walked away from my Catholic faith for about 7 years. Mm-hmm. And then I had an encounter. It was in a hotel room in Toronto. I remember the day and the time.
Love it. Tell us. I love these stories.
Yeah, God showed up. It's as simple as that, Terry. I can't say any more other than God literally showed up, and He really put two things in front of me. He said, "You're either Christian or you're not, but you need to stop living this lie and go one way or the other." He really put it to me, and
awesome.
It changed everything. And I of course it wasn't as a lot of cookie cutter Christians tell you today that I said yes to Christ and then my life was wrapped up in a pretty nice bow. It didn't go that way for me. It was difficult to extradite myself from that lifestyle, and it took time, and it was messy, but it was beautiful. And when I kind of came out of it, if you will, with this sort of just strength and faith, I wanted to tell a story about that encounter, and I wanted to capture just how deep and beautiful our faith is, and that's where Full of Grace really came from.
That's awesome. So how did your life change making this film, Andrew?
It really allowed me to explore these deeper elements of my faith. I was really allowed to ask these questions that maybe I didn't feel like I could as a younger Catholic. Really deep questions such as, does my faith stand up against the drama of life? Does it have something beautiful and truthful to say that the world cannot say? And the answer, of course, is a resounding yes. But through this film, I was able to really explore that in my own life. So coming out of this film, I'm just so joyful, so humbled, and so excited to be a faithful Catholic now. But it really was I was able to explore that through this film.
That is awesome. Folks, if you just tuned in, this is the Terry and Jesse Show. We're interviewing Andrew Hyatt. He's the director of a movie called Full of Grace, and I want to make sure everybody goes to see it. Before my next question, Andrew, tell us how people can go and see this movie. Is there a website they should go to?
Sure. Yeah, it just came out this week, so it's nationwide. So it's available on DVD, Walmart, Amazon, iTunes, all of that. And you can also go to the website, fullofgracefilm.com, and get it there as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, folks, again, if you're just tuning in, this is a great movie to take mom, and I would say dad and the kids to see. So tell us about why you decided to make a film about Our Lady rather than any other topic on our faith.
Absolutely, yeah. We explored a lot of different stories. Really, we started with wanting to tell maybe a saint story, and then we kind of backed off of that. And really what it came down to is we said, well, if we're going to sort of tell these sort of new stories, this is a very new experiential film, I say. It's very meditative, reflective. It's meant to speak something into your life, and that's why we're excited about it. So we thought, well, why don't we start at the beginning? And who was the first Christian? Well, technically, the first Christian was Mary. She's the first person to say yes to Christ.
Amen.
So we said, let's tell something about Our Lady. And then we really looked at, well, there's a lot of nativity stories. There's a lot of passion stories. Mm-hmm. And then we were shocked to find there is absolutely nothing, really nothing out there about her in her later years. And we thought, wow, for the most powerful, beautiful, amazing woman in the history of the world, how come more people haven't explored more of her life? And so we got very excited about telling a story that hasn't been told before.
This is exciting, folks. Again, the name of the movie is Full of Grace. It's in all the theaters across America. He mentioned you can go to Amazon. You can get it at Walmart on DVD. it's exciting to see that. You know, one of the questions that comes up in my mind, Andrew, is this: what kind of research did you guys do to explore the years after the resurrection?
Well, it's a great question because, as we know in Scripture, there's very little about Our Lady. So we really went back to the early church, and we dug into some beautiful visions, really Catholic visions and writings. St. Bridget of Sweden has some beautiful writings about Mary's later years and her Assumption. And then we went into Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, if you're familiar with her. Yeah, sure. She has, of course, the Dolores Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ, and where Mel Gibson got a lot of Passion of the Christ material from. But what a lot of people don't know is she has another book of visions that are all about Our Lady. Right. And so that was really helpful in just inspiring us to really... It was a faithful process. We brought in a lot of experts and advisors and scholars to really help us just stay on the right path, and a lot of prayer went into it, that's for sure.
Well said. Folks, I want to encourage you, if you heard the beginning of the show, a little 5-year-old little boy talked about how his first grade teacher taught them how to pray the rosary and how he brought that rosary back to mom and dad who weren't practicing the faith, and that got mom and dad back into the faith. And as a matter of fact, dad especially was having a challenge with alcohol, and it was the rosary that brought him to become sober. It's an amazing story. I have 2 copies for everyone to listen to. If you heard a little bit of it, I'll give you the full-length interview with mom, dad, and the little boy. Why am I giving this to you guys? I want you to promote the family rosary, because I think that's the answer right now in the world we're living in to bring peace to the world, the fulfillment of Our Lady of Fatima's request. If you want to get that CD, a couple copies, it's free. You call 877-526-2151. That's 877-526-2151. Andrew, where were you? Let me ask you this. My question is about the actors. Were they Christian? Did they know anything about the faith? Because what I saw, it looked like they really were into acting out in this movie. Were they committed Christians? That's my question.
It's a great question, and no, actually, very little people involved on the actual production were, and that was a really big question, of course. You know, a lot of Christian films that come out today, you know, it's a lot of churches that are producing this material, and a lot of sort of inner Christian circles, if you will, and we really felt like that wasn't the call, you know, this new evangelization call in the church and this heart to go out into the world. We really made it clear that what we want is the best. We want the best crew. We want the best cast. And we also really were interested in not having sort of the typical, whitewashed British Jesus cast.
I know the ones. Yep.
Yeah, so we said, let's really find authentic Middle Eastern actors. Let's make it feel authentic and real. And but I will say real quickly, it was a beautiful experience, especially with Peter and Mary, the 2 actors that played them. Really were unfamiliar with the gospel, and I mean really unfamiliar. Peter, the man that plays Peter, hadn't really even heard of Peter. He knew nothing.
Unbelievable.
And so through this process, it was just beautiful to watch them really embrace these characters. And you know what I think it did?
Tell us.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but I really feel in my heart, I think what was allowed to happen was because they were so open, they didn't have their own preconceived notions of who these people were, that I really believe that Mary and Peter spoke through them. And it's clear in the performances when you see the film and you see this woman portray Mary. She has this beautiful monologue, and I'm convinced Mary spoke through her.
Absolutely. Andrew, we got about a minute and a half before our break. Big question. How did the cast and the crew respond to the material? And how did you choose an actress to play Mary? Can you do that in 90 seconds?
Yeah, they were so open. They really were. That's all I'll say about the cast. They were so open. Yes, It was beautiful, and everybody had the right heart, and there were many, many tears shed on set. And our actress, awesome. We were desperate. We put out casting call after casting call, and this woman, Bahia Hafai, showed up out of nowhere. And again, I think it's all a miracle. And when you see how well she does with it, it's we're blessed to have her.
Wow, Andrew, I want to thank you. And again, people go to www.fullofgracefilms.com, and then I think you /faith events, And you can go take the whole family this weekend to that movie. Andrew, I want to congratulate you on doing this because, you know, many people will not even make a step into a Catholic church, but they're at the movie theaters, and this could evangelize them to Christ through Mary. And I want to thank you for your hard work with your crew, because after the break, I'm going to talk to TJ, your partner on this, and talk to him about the movie. So I want to thank you for taking the time with me to share your insights on why you put this movie out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless, Terry.
God bless you, my friend. Folks, you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. Jesse's out of town, but I just interviewed Andrew Hyatt. He's the writer and director of the movie Full of Grace. What a great response he gave me on why they made this movie and his own personal walk with the Lord. You know, this is the new evangelization. Yep, we're putting out good Catholic movies. Go see the movie Full of Grace at your theater today, or go online to get it by just typing in fullofgrace.com. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about this movie. If you want to get some good CDs on the rosary of a little boy who just touched my heart, how he brought the rosary back to his family, call 877-526-215 when you get that CD. Get a couple copies. Share them with your friends. We want to get the rosary back in the homes for world peace today. When we come back, I have another interview on the movie Full of Grace. Don't turn that down. This is Terry again. I want to thank you for listening to our show. I wanted to just mention that I had a call from a 15-year-old, well, the dad of a 15-year-old son, because he, believe it or not, was calling me to ask for advice from a radio show because his 15-year-old son had been misled by a Catholic teacher in his Catholic school and was trying to convince him to become an atheist. What? Is this thing on? That's why we... CatholicRC.org. Thanks for your donations. Let's have it happen again and again and again. God love you. Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. As I said, Jesse's traveling. We always say we're too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed. And if hope was money, Jesse and Terry would be millionaires. We're talking, if you just tuned in, about a movie called Full of Grace. And I just want to encourage our listeners. Many times people say, I couldn't hear your show at 11 o'clock because I was at work. I heard it on the internet later. Well, we now have a app for smartphones, and it's a free app where you can actually listen to our show anytime, anywhere in the world. There's free programming like Scott Hahn, recordings of Answering Common Objections. Lots of good things on that app. So if you want to get the free app, go to CatholicRC.org, and you can download it on your smartphone, and then you really can get the Terry and Jesse Show. We do this 6 days a week, and you can pick and choose which ones you want. But at this point, I promised I'd have TJ Burden, who is actually the producer for that movie. We just had Andrew Hyatt, the director of the movie Full of Grace, but now let's talk about the marketing and the distribution like we're doing on the radio right now. I want to welcome TJ to the Terry and Jesse Show.
A pleasure to be here, Terry. Thanks so much.
Brother, it's a blessing to have both you and Andrew on talking about this movie, because I really believe this could touch many souls that would never touch a Catholic church or a Christian church, and this could really expose them to the message of Christ. So I encourage all of our listeners to go see the movie Full of Grace. JT, tell us about the distribution plans, because we understand that you have a very unique parish distribution focused on evangelization, which is close to my heart. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, and you hit the money. It's already touching people's lives. We've been taking it on the road for the last 6 months. Now it's available on Walmart, Target, fullofgracefilm.com. On the secular side, but from our missional standpoint, the company that produced the film is called Outside the Box.
Yeah.
They've been producing short-form video content for the young church for the last 10 years. So we've kind of grown up with that young church, which is now a millennial church, which is now everybody's kind of young at heart in the church, I think, people who have a desire to have a relationship with God, you know. And
Amen.
So we were inspired by Pope Francis, this whole idea of culture of encounter, that we need to have this encounter with Christ for it to be something that, you know, really takes hold of our lives. So
Sure.
The film, the themes in the film, from Mary to Peter, they had the same experience we did. I mean, Mary's experience was a little bit more intense, But we have the same thing offered to us every day. God comes to us and says, I need you. And we feel all our human limits in that. But we've developed this really innovative parish evenings of reflection. So a parish can actually license the film. We bring it in for a unique prayerful experience. We often say that old churches of old, they used to, have stained glass windows, still today, less so, but it's beautiful stained glass windows and mosaics.
Yep.
Why? It was to teach people who were illiterate, teach them about the stories. Today, we are not illiterate in what we read, but we are sort of illiterate in our hearts. We don't know how God really relates to our daily life, our daily experience. So our hope is that these parish events can become this sort of a culture of encounter, like Pope Francis always tells us, and people can invite in maybe people who are at the periphery of the church. You probably always talk about them.
I do.
The guys who come around once or twice a year, and they're coming though. They're around. Maybe they're listening on your show today, and they might not come to a really deep, catechetical conference, but they will come see a movie, and we hope that our films are imbued with the beauty, the theology. It's all there, like those beautiful paintings.
Sure. That makes sense. Let me ask you this, TJ. How does your film support the theme of encounter that Pope Francis has spoken about for the past couple of years?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Andrew, myself, Eric Groth, who runs as president of Outside the Box, we really talked a lot about this in the development of the film, so that Mary is the example par excellence of this encounter. The angel comes to her and asks her, and it was her yes, with all of her freedom. And then, Peter on the seashore, and he's a good example of somebody. We like him because Mary's perfect in a certain way, but Peter's more like us. He's more like me. Every day I need to take it up every day and say yes, and then I make a mistake and I fall off, but then I say yes again, So Peter and Mary in the film, it's really Mary trying to help the apostles, namely Peter, just regain that initial encounter that they had with Christ, that Peter's burdened with this new, it wasn't even called Christianity, it wasn't anything in those first couple of years. It was just a group of people who loved each other, who stayed together. And you can imagine Peter, he's a fisherman. He's not a philosopher. He's not one of these high, I'm glad there are people like that in the world. I'm not one of those guys. I got a simple heart, a simple faith. So does Peter. So she just reminds him, there's a line in the film, you're not leading, you're following, which kind of challenges all of our modern mentality, but would have also challenged him. Christ didn't ask him he did say, upon this rock I'll build my church, but he loved Peter first, that was the point. Sure. And then everything else kind of comes out of that love.
Yeah, JT, we just have a couple of minutes left, but why do you think it's important to tell stories of faith today? Is that still a great way to share the faith?
No, yeah. In fact, I think it's in this day and age, with technology being what it is, being able to access and tell these stories, because I think Catholics have a hard time coming out to see movies because there's stuff that really doesn't really connect to their faith. There's the big budget action things. So we found a way to actually tell spiritually rich, artfully made content that really speaks, that builds on the experience of the sacred. We're calling it sacred art house, meaning we want people to have this encounter, but through beauty. Christ is this sort of personification of beauty. So we hope that these are movies that we will be making for forever. It's a lifetime of work. Michelangelo, Caravaggio, these guys spent their lives, and they were inspired by their faith. These are some of the best war stories, love stories. You know them. You're talking about them every day.
Absolutely.
In the world. So we, Full of Grace is the start of a journey that we hope will be, but we need the audience. We need to actually show that Catholics watch this content when it's beautiful, when it speaks to their experience. Sure. And I think with Full of Grace, we have the the first step. So
awesome.
fullofgracefilm.com. You can find out about how to request the film to your parish on the faith events section.
Perfect.
Or you can just buy it and support us.
You got it. JT, just a minute left. Give us a quick number of what your future projects are going to be coming, real quick.
Sure. Yep. Well, we're staying in the biblical space for a bit. Our next film is about Paul. So it'll be great. The last moments of Paul's life as he's in a prison before his own execution, reflecting on his life and him in a dialogue with what would become the Acts of the Apostles. So sort of writing down those beginning notes that would become this incredible adventure. Well,
JT, TJ, I want to thank you for what you're doing along with your partner here, Andrew. And I want to encourage everyone to go see the movie. Go to fullofgrace.com and you can find out more about that movie. Keep up the good work. And when you have your next movie on the life of St. Paul, give us a call. We'd love to promote it, brother.
We're coming back. Thank you so much for what you do.
All right, my friend. TJ, God love you. Folks, you've been listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. We're at the end of our hour. It goes too fast, everybody. We'd love to have an extra hour, but we don't at this point. And I just want to encourage you to be part of the solution of evangelization. I'm mentioning the Sharing the Gift of Mercy this year because this is the year of mercy with Father Donald Calloway, best-selling talk, Jesus, I Trust in You. It's a video. The video is telling you about divine mercy in Father's life and how it can be in your life. Also, he prays the Chaplet of Divine Mercy with you, whether you get the video or the audio. It's a powerful message today that Pope Francis is asking all Catholics to step up to the plate and promote divine mercy. Call 877-526-2151 to get your copies, because I think it's important that we Catholics share the faith. We can pray our Chaplet of Divine Mercy ourselves. Absolutely. Continue to do that. In addition, be proactive. Start giving these CDs out to families and friends. If you were in the show at the beginning, I had a young boy, age 5. He was evangelizing his mom and dad to pray the daily rosary. He did it. I got the whole interview, Mom, Dad, and Augustine. It's a beautiful testimony. If you want to get copies of that, I'll share them with you, because you know what? I want you to share it with families so that other families will start praying the daily rosary and implement Our Lady of Fatima's peace plan. The world needs peace more than ever. Call 877-526-2151 to get your CDs and start spreading divine mercy, start spreading the rosary, because life is short, eternity is forever. Last thing I'm going to ask you guys, every day, ask Jesus Christ for more faith every single day. And for you married couples, let's face it, we need to renew our marriage vows. That's how our strength of our marriage will last. As Pope Francis said, Jesus begins miracles at the wedding feast, and so Jesus teaches us that the masterpiece of society is the family, the man and women who love each other. This is the masterpiece. We'll see you again on Monday. May God richly bless you and your family.